listener. This is Marty V, and I have exciting news. We are now sponsored by Plotter.com. So, as you remember from our conversation with Troy Lambert, Plotter is a storyboarding software that is really lovely and intuitive to use, but also very easy to move and drag different parts of your story around. So that is Plotter.com, Plottr.com. If you haven't checked them out, definitely do it. It's a very cool piece of software. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Plotter. We're excited to have you. And let's get on to the show. You guys are so cute. Thanks. Hi.
Welcome to. Oh, hi. Welcome to Romance Writers Therapy. There's an echo in here.
It's me.
Marty V. And I'm Kate Pryor.
Kate Pryor-y. No, just Kate Pryor, guys.
That sounded like we had written it and we were really trying to like time it out.
Oh, God. If that sounded rehearsed.
Not rehearsed.
Not rehearsed, like just planned. Don't worry, no one thinks that we meant to do that.
Oh, okay.
No, you were just very not rehearsed. No one thought it was rehearsed. Hi, Kate. Yeah. How are you? Do you want to do that again?
Oh, yeah, I like it. I think it's cute and charming and just so the funniest.
Like us.
Yes, like us.
How was your day?
My day was okay.
Okay.
I got when you do that thing where you like read a thing and you get 99% of like the comments on a thing that you made are glowing and beautiful. And then like one comment is like, yeah. And you're just like, why?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Nope. I do know that feeling.
And so I think also I was hungry for a lot of like when that hit. Mm-hmm. And so it just hit me and stayed with me while and then I ate food and then I felt better.
Good. I love food. I need to make a soup that I can freeze and take to the office and just heat up because I'm getting soup at the grocery store and it's soup made at the grocery store. Anyway.
Okay.
I mean, I could make my soup and just store it into, individual storage things. And heat it up. Just do some meal prep.
I see a lot of those videos on TikTok, and
my issue is that I never end up eating them. I never end up eating the meal
prep.
Yeah,
no, that was my thought. I would look at that and be like, oh, I would not want to make any of those a week in.
Well, and part of the problem is that I forget it exists, right? It's in the basement freezer or it's in the freezer in general. It's not directly in my face. I forget it exists. And so I don't end up eating it. I'm really sorry for how noisy I'm being.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But this has been Meal Prep with Kate and Marty.
This has been our new segment.
Our new segment. So how is writing going?
Writing's... Yeah, I've not done very much
since
we last talked. I think I wrote 300 words one day, and then I was like, yes, I'm going to do this every day. And then I did not.
And then I was like, not true.
Constantly.
My mini goals have been working out great. So, yeah. I got done with the scene I wanted to get done with. I do have that sex scene to finish, but I'm almost done with it. And then I'm, I don't know, a third way into my next scene that's due on the 25th. And so, yeah, this mini goal situation's really working out for me.
That's really good. I'm glad.
Yeah, me too. Because, man, I needed to make some progress. Falling behind, it really stresses me out.
It is so stressful. And, I feel like the nature of writing is that, especially once you start, before we were published authors, I did still constantly feel behind on everything.
Yes.
You know, just, oh no, I'm late for something. And,
yes.
No, you're not. You're not on a schedule yet.
You have no commitments other than the ones you made up.
Yes. Yes. You have this weird non-existent ticking clock in your head and
Yes.
it's ticking towards nothing. And but then when you're a published author and then you're like, oh, I have to release books on a set schedule and I have to actually make deadlines now. And
Yeah, well, and like the fact that the deadlines are for anthologies, like
mm,
I love my little naive self thinking I would get this book done in Gathered. I also thought it was going to be shorter, but I thought I would
of
have it
course.
done by the beginning of April. I would get the sequel to Just Fake Married done, and then I would write the second chance romance that's due December 1st, right?
Okay, yeah.
My naive little self thought that was my schedule. And then I'm still not done with the small town romance that is due in September. And like knowing that like I have editing to do on both the second chance romance anthology due in December and this small town romance, like knowing that like no, Just Teach Me has to wait until after both of these books are like published. Like that's where I have to put a pin in it, man. I'm also thinking that like when I'm done writing these two books, I might pause and maybe record audiobook or two. And then I also have that creepy screenplay I told you about forever ago. You
Mm,
remember that nightmare I
your
had?
little foray into horror, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think I might need to switch up genre for a second or two. And I think a screenplay would be a good way for me to do that because I think writing prose in it would really be too hard. Like, not too hard, but like I don't want to go to that place in my mind. So that's kind of all of my thoughts that I just said out loud. What about you?
I've got a piece for a December anthology that's coming out. Summer, duh. And finally, that's the thing I finished first. And
It's really cute and fun, and I
oh,
love
it
it.
is really cute and fun. It is. I really enjoyed writing it. I have an August anthology that I have. A, I'm over the word count, but I don't want to say I haven't started writing it. I wrote a thing and then I was like, oh, I can chop this up a little bit and like put some like new scaffolding on it and it'll look and I can repurpose it for this anthology that
Mm-hmm.
uh is going to come out in October. And so I have a bunch of words that I'm going to like chop up and do things with. So it is
Okay.
over the word count currently, but
But also doesn't exist at the same time.
also doesn't exist at the same time because I haven't started like really working on it in that context yet. So like that's like a weird little stress bomb that I've created for myself. I'm continuing to ignore. And then I have my gargoyle book, which I know I said I was telling you I wanted to release it in early spring, and we are now
Mm-hmm.
rapidly approaching summertime, and it's still like 75% done.
Yeah, but like at the same rate, like to line up with your other releases of this series, like October would be right.
October would be good for it. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
is what you did suggest that when I said early spring. And then I was like, no, I'm going to be really disappointed if that happens. But at the same time, kind of knew that that was going to happen.
Okay. Well, I'm
You
sorry if
know,
you feel disappointed. In my head, you were always releasing it in October, so maybe I'm the bad juju.
maybe you're just like
It's my fault.
manifesting this for me. And I need to stop.
I need you to start thinking about summer now.
I need you to start imagining me in the most productive manner possible,
Okay.
like outstripping Stephen King and like all that. Like I'm gonna like if you can visualize this for me, I think it'll
Uh-huh.
happen.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate that I'm such a strong visualizer for you. That I upset all of your expectations. I'm very powerful in the mind.
You are.
But only towards you, because I have
Only
not
towards
manifested my
you
own
can't do this with
situation.
anything else. It's a really weird
Nothing else.
superpower.
It's a weird one. It's a very weird superpower I have over you. Okay, so Kate, are you ready to talk about what we're here to talk about?
I am. The thing you messaged me about the other day that you're reading.
Yeah.
So I am letting you lead on this because you've read this book and I haven't.
Well, I am currently reading the book, and I am really enjoying it, listener. It's The Secrets of Story by Matt Bird. It is definitely it's story heavy. Like, he's going through and, like, explaining, like, how to create, like, a well-rounded story that is for, like, entertaining people, right? It's not for like literary notoriety or anything like that. It's like, this is how you please viewers and readers, sort of thing, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's
I dig it.
very good. I definitely suggest it. It took me a minute because like I felt like there was a lot of introduction. And now that he's like in the nitty-gritty of it, I'm like, wow, I'm gonna have to listen to this again. But he was talking about, he uses film and TV a lot as references.
Okay.
But he was talking about how like when films expect the viewer to just accept the premise of the story, right? So instead of like anticipating that the viewer might be like, well, why don't they just go around the building instead of through it? Like the movie will be like, the viewer isn't even going to ask that question. You know what I mean? Like they're going to expect the viewer just to accept their premise, right?
Yeah. Oh, there's a term for this. Is it? I'm sorry, you're waiting forever.
Mentioned a term, I don't believe.
It's like a 3-word phrase. So it might not even come off as like a term when you're reading it. It's not immersion. Suspension of disbelief.
Okay.
You've heard that before.
That makes sense. Yeah, I totally have. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I definitely see how that lines up with this point. But what it made me think about in romance is when the writer expects the reader just to want the, romantic couple to end up together because they're clearly the romantic couple. Yeah. But like they're not actually giving us any reason for them to be together, right? Just because they're two pretty people on page doesn't mean that they should be together. Like I need to be sold on your premise.
It's like, why these two and not like any other characters together?
Absolutely.
Why no other
Yeah, like why am I reading a story about these two people when literally you could pick either of them out of the scene and put someone else there and it'd mean just as much, right? Like, yeah. So I wanted to talk a bit about like what choices do we make as writers to sell the premise to our readers?
Okay. And this is in romance specifically.
Well, I mean, we're romance writers therapy, so I kind of feel like we've narrowed our focus.
Dumb question.
Not dumb question. No dumb questions, Kate.
I am in dumb question mode. You're gonna hear shit out of my mouth like, are you even there? And the answer's no.
Are you there, Kate? It's me, Marty.
Episode title.
Yes! I love when they come organically.
Yeah. And you just feel it.
Okay, so something that we've talked about before is giving them like essentially like mirrored like no ways sort of thing, right?
Mirrored no ways. Like no, I 100% get what you're saying. I'm trying to think of an example.
The only thing I can come up with is like something stupid.
Well, so like, in Romancing the Beat, the one I think she uses is all men cheat. So the heroine is like, just doesn't believe that this guy won't cheat on her. And maybe his thing is that he's, I don't know, what's the opposite of cheating? Codependency?
Women don't trust him?
It could be that. Like it.
But like, that's kind of terrible. Because like, why don't women trust you?
Or maybe he just feels like he doesn't get like enough agency from like his spouses. Maybe he's had abusive relationships where, he's, I think like a really great example is like financial abuse, when you have one bank account with this person and you can't really do anything without them seeing, hey, what's this charge on my credit card? Oh, it's just groceries, you feel monitored. So I think you could easily come up with like a really in-depth, like a nuanced interplay between two characters. The ways that they're hurt mirror each other, like what you said. But at the same time, does that say these people should be together, or does that say maybe these people are the exact worst people for each other? Well,
and I think that that's part of like how we have to see them in the story, because on paper, of course, they're the worst people for each other, right?
Right, but maybe then they're, by exposing their wounds to each other, that sounds so gross, their emotional wounds, because they drive them out, like they just by the outer nature of their wounds, they tend to rile they provoke the reaction, they make the other person like really come out and say
confront
the thing that they're not saying, and like
kind of confront like their own interior
they make them confront
expectations.
it. Maybe they come to the realization that maybe their wounds aren't so different, or maybe they come to realize that, like, empathize with each other in a way that maybe no one else can. Maybe they realize, actually, we are hurt in the same way, and it's that we didn't feel really loved by the people we needed to be loved by. Like, and they find, like you don't have to transform the wound into, like, something like that, but you can come up with something that makes them click with each other in a way that they can't with anyone else. I feel like I'm doing math. Like, I'm trying to solve an equation here.
In the flow chart here. So, like, something that I struggle with is a lot of times I think my stories aren't so much about how these two people are the one perfect person for each other.
Yeah, no, I think you do need to, like, not every romance buys into the premise of there's only one person out there who's going to fit your exact jagged, broken heart and, like, make you whole again.
I think I tend to be too pragmatic as a person to accept that as, like, even being a romantic notion. Like, I don't find that romantic. I find that limiting.
Yeah, no. Whenever I write fated mates, I feel, like, so compelled to be like, but this person isn't, like, just a one be-all, end-all kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because
regardless of how it looks on paper. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm, like, actively fighting the trope while I'm writing it.
So then the other part of, like, why does the reader, so we have, like, that they have two wounds that really fit together and heal each other, right? Another one I love is that, like, they begin with very big feelings for each other, right? Like, their feelings are already very deep-seated, whether that feeling is animosity or that they're mutually pining. I like them to have big feelings. So a lot of times my stories have characters that have already met and there is a history. And I think that that's probably why I do that, because it's hard for me to accept that, like, two people that just met could have those kind of big feelings for each other. Now, as a reader, I can accept it just fine.
Yeah, no, it's so weird. Like, I've been thinking, I know this is a little bit of a divergence.
No, you're fine. Yeah, of course.
Why? Topic.
Who would we be if we didn't diverge?
Like, we should just rename this podcast to Romance Raiders Tangents.
Yes, absolutely. Except for a lot of times we do talk a lot about, like, dealing with our anxiety and everything is emotionally based. So honestly,
like,
we named it correctly.
We need to change the title back. We've been talking about psychoanalyzing each other.
Yeah, exactly. That I control you from afar.
Yeah, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. Okay, but you were going to tell me your tangent.
My tangent? What was my tangent?
I was talking about how I find I write a lot of characters that already know each other before the book begins.
Okay. So this is a thought that I've been having a lot, and it could absolutely just be, like, a high thought. Because I definitely realize I have this thought every time.
Thought, like, high concept thought, not like I am high. No. Not like I have a substance in my system thought.
This is definitely a non-sober thought.
Okay.
You know, you watch a movie and then you really realize why all the other film majors were, like, really into weed, but and this would have helped with video essays so much more. Yeah. Like, God, why didn't I write any of my papers stoned? I should have. Out here,
I can't imagine getting anything done stoned. Like, really? I cannot imagine. No. For one thing,
like, when I'm so productive.
When I, like, am like, okay, I'm gonna take a gummy or something. Like, by that point, it is the end of the day, and the only thing I have planned is sitting there and watching TV. Like, that is my vibe when I take a gummy. So, I can't imagine doing anything stoned. Because you mentioned writing while stoned, and I'm like, God, what does that even look like? Like, I don't know if I could.
So, you know,
because I tend to just go to sleep afterwards. I usually am still high when I fall asleep.
Remember the sex chapter? I read you and Anna, and then I had a moment like, what the hell is with this chapter? That was that chapter.
Okay, but you were saying this is a high thought. Tell me your high thought.
It's the kind of two different sides of the coin when it comes to a story. And when you have your director, because I was watching mostly TV with this.
Okay.
You know, like whether it's you've got the director, the storyboarder, the writer, everyone involved in this project, you could pick any role. And when they are trying to elicit specific emotions and make the reader or viewer provoke their thoughts in a certain way, and then you have the reader or viewer on the other side of it who is consuming the media, seeing these actions happen on screen or in the book. The question was really like, how do you know how someone is going to react to a thing? How do you engineer someone's reactions?
Like, to elicit a specific emotion from your reader.
Yeah, and I feel like there's some things that there's like easy like answers for that. Like if I want you to cry, then I'm going to show you something sad. But if I'm going to make you angry, but like maybe, you know?
I think what we're really talking about is that we have to have empathy for the person, like the character that this is happening to, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
So we have to put them in a situation that is relatable as a viewer or as a reader, listener. Can we call them participants or something instead of having to like?
Yeah, no, but let's just stick with reader. Let's use book terms,
stick with reader.
This is
stick with reader.
A book writing podcast.
Is it?
I have no idea.
Because we just talked about meal prep, so.
This is our meal prep podcast where we talk about like story structure.
Oh man, I think that what we really have to do is we have to make sure that we create situations that the reader can identify with the character, right? Okay. So there has to be something that reminds us of ourselves, that or like reminds us that this person is real. Something in characterization that like just brings us into that character's head. Whether we like them or not isn't as important because we have, you know, anti-heroes that we root for. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that these are people that have been brought to life through their characterizations, right? So then when we make people already identify with them and then we put them in a sad moment, that's what makes the people feel. Because if I just have someone crying in a room, but I don't have any way to know who that person is, why they're crying, like if I just open with someone crying in a room, like that's
it's like
that's not going to elicit much feeling. Yeah, absolutely.
You're intrigued why they're crying, but you're not empathetic. You're not crying yourself. No, and I definitely see when you study horror, like one of the things, like, and I think when we talk about how similar horror and romance are as genres, one of the main, like, I think from the get-go things is that you need to make these people empathetic. Like you need to make the reader like these people or empathize with these people, because if they get together by the end of the romance, and I don't care if like I have read it was a Carnival Row inspired novel, not inspired. It was in the universe of Carnival Row, but it was a book, not part of the TV show, and there's a romance between these two ladies. I think they're both fairies or something. One of them's like a city girl and she's so academic and pretentious. And then there's this other girl who's her roommate in the university and she's like a country bumpkin and a little bit dumb, or perceived as a little bit dumb, really. Mm-hmm. And eventually they have a romance, but they are so toxic towards each other throughout their romance that I think I was telling you when I was reading it, I was like, I actively don't want these two people to be together. And then like it ended and they weren't together. And I was like, yeah, I'm glad actually that she didn't stay together, because that would be the worst ending, I think. But like for it to have had the kind of impact I think that it wanted, that I would be upset that they didn't get to be together and like feel bad about the tragedy of this lost love, this relationship that could have been, I would have had to have want them to be together in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there has to, like, if you're going to have two people, I'm sorry, my dog is driving me nuts. But if you're going to have two people that, like a second chance romance, right? Like you have two people that have already hurt each other. They have already decided to call it quits. And now we're giving them a second chance. Like, that means that I need to see redemption. I need to see the issues that they have with each other, the reasons that they broke up in the first place. I need to see that those wounds are healed, right?
Exactly.
Or
God,
else
don't. I have so much. I used to really hate the idea of a second chance romances because, well, at that point in my life, I'd only had like bad breakups. And I was like, if I break up with a person, I never want to see them again, you know?
Yeah.
And I couldn't comprehend wanting to revisit something, you know? And I think, like, since then, I'm like, I've seen examples and I've been like, okay, I can see how, like, people grow and change over time. Like, there's still very little that I'm, like, open to. So, like, you really have to convince me as the reader to be about your second chance romance. Like, it can't be like, no, I think you should stay divorced. Like, you know?
Well, I think, yes, we have to have a reason that they got divorced that is excusable, right? Not that the divorce needs an excuse, but I need to have,
like, it can't be so reason bad that I don't want y'all to ever get back together. Like,
absolutely.
You can't have,
it's like you have to have a really big dark night of the soul reason that they got broken up, right? So, like,
but at the same time, it can't be so flimsy that it's like, oh, y'all broke up for
then
that?
You guys should stay separated, because why would you want to, like, you already just threw in the towel because y'all didn't like each other, right? Like,
yeah, it's like, I don't, and like, y'all not liking make someone it through a second time.
Exactly. Like, when you just gave up, like, why would you try again, right? And I'm really hesitant to have this conversation right now because I want to make it clear, like, if you come to the point in your life that you're like, I need to split up with this person, I need a divorce, I think that you have probably had a lot of times that you tried, and I think divorce is an option. And we should all remember the stakes that we're in when we enter into relationships and, like, not take them for granted. And if you're being taken in for granted, dude, I support you. You make your choices. Divorce is an option. So, and, like, Andrew always gets so nervous when I make that argument about everything. Not in terms of our relationship, because just, I'm, like, really
stop
like
telling people to get divorced.
Well, but, like, y'all, if I think some people I know should get divorced. Okay. Look, divorce is an option. They're not seeing the stakes, and they're taking you for granted. Be done. But anyway, that is definitely a tangent. But I just want to make it clear to listener, like, if you've had a divorce, if you've had a big breakup, I think you didn't come to that decision lightly, and I just support you. That's all. So Andrew just texted me, divorce is not an option. So apparently I'm talking loud enough he can hear me upstairs.
Oh my god. Poor Andrew. Who knows what he thinks we're talking about. Like, stop telling
people we're getting a divorce.
Oh my god. Well, so, like, how many Saw movies have you seen?
None?
Okay.
None. I don't like slasher films.
Me neither.
Because I empathize too strongly with the characters.
Oh my god.
And so I am just destroyed by them.
Well, so, like, I'm not really big on horror. I do like a good horror movie that is well crafted and, like,
I love a mind meldy kind of horror. Like, I love something that really messes with, like, my concepts of, like, reality, or, like, just kind of like a mental horror. I can't think of the word right now, but those are the ones I love.
So when I was my freshman year in college, there was this huge blizzard, and we got locked in our dorms for the weekend. And my roommate at the time was really into horror, and we ordered, like, a bunch of food from Domino's, like, just as it started to snow. But then she was like, "Let's start with Saw 1," and I was like, yeah, okay, Jesus. I could get through Saw 1. And little did I know she had 2 through 6 also. Just
on the docket. Oh, that's so fucked up.
Oh my god. And she was so into it, and I was, like, really trying to, like, make friends, and it was like,
oh no,
girl. I don't know, but so I watched, like, the first couple of them, and, like, the first one's good. In that, like, it was, I could write a separate video essay. I won't go about it. But There's a lot of good things I could say about the Saw movie without having liked it.
Okay.
But after a while, they do become repetitive, but they also kind of stop. I honestly, I don't know if I could say that even from really the first one, that they do all that much work in making you see the people who are being put through these absolutely gruesome obstacle courses as people, you know, and not anything else. Like just after a while, like, because it was so gruesome and the stuff I was seeing, I just could not handle after a while, even though she just kept putting these movies on and I could not, for the life of me, get her to stop. And
did you say no more? Or
I did not at any point. I've seen all of them, but I did like mentally and emotionally check out at some point.
Yeah.
And think, like, just try to like look at it from like, these are actors and these are props they're holding.
Yeah.
Like, and then, but watching any horror movie going forth from that, it's like, if it can't convince me that this isn't an actor, which, like, I think is the premise of all movies, all TV. Like, you need to convince me first that you're not an actor.
I think that's also, like, what we're doing as writers, too, is we're convincing people that, no, this isn't a book. This is real, right? Like, it's real and it's in your head, but, like, everything is existing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and here's another tangent for you.
Ooh, I love it.
Like, what we're doing as writers. I was reading about this, and it was a Tumblr post. I'm gonna send it to you and see if I can find like the article that it was referencing. As writers, there's, when you write dialogue, you want to telegraph it, you think you want to telegraph it as accurately as possible, right?
Okay.
But when you do that, when you add in all the ums and the spaces and the way sentences are actually structured when people talk.
Yes. And we repeat the same word over and over, all those things.
Yes. When you add in all of that really naturalistic sounding dialogue, which in movies has like seen its day. Like, that's a whole separate thing. The history of naturalistic dialogue in movies. When you do that in books, it takes you out of the moment. It breaks the immersion. It unsuspends your disbelief or whatever. It takes you out. It's a bumpy road and you're hitting like a speed bump.
Yes, because, like, as a reader, it doesn't read smoothly.
It doesn't.
And so you have to, like, well, I thought, ... You know what I mean? Like, and, like, those things have a time and a place, but, like, you really have to pick and choose your moments so it doesn't, like, pause the scene as a whole, right?
Yes. Because the punctuation you're using is, like, its own character.
Yes.
You know?
So something I really love to do to, like, liven up dialogue is to kind of talk not directly to the subject, right? Because, like, as like, that's something that we do in speech that I think translates really well into natural dialogue on the page without doing a bunch of ums, wells, ohs, right? That's something I like to do. That's it.
Well, so I just, I think it's such a, like, I have no idea, like, I have no good answer for this because I think it's something that kind of comes natural. Like, something I sit around and think about, like, all the time is, like, when you watch a Jane Austen movie or you read a Jane Austen book, and you kind of have a moment and you're like, did people really talk like this back then?
Yeah.
Like, the way, like, it's not even like the words that they use, it's the way that they structure their sentences. And I have a little moment like, is this the way that people actually talked back then? Or is it just the way that people wrote things down,
Yeah.
And I think really that there might be some kind of disconnect there. And I don't know.
Is that another high thought? Because it kind of sounds like a...
It is a little bit of a...
Yeah. Deep high thoughts, man. Sometimes you have them.
Every thought is...
Every thought
has potential if you dig deep enough.
Okay, so do we have more to talk about with the premise and, like, the things we do to sell the romance to the reader?
Ooh, okay, we have diverged. Oh my god. To sell romance to the reader, I think I have to believe though, like this is a really basic thing, and I feel like it's a very much a well duh kind of thing. But I need to believe that these people actually enjoy each other. Yeah.
Yeah, like, even when it's enemies to lovers, their barbs have to seem like they are having fun doing it.
Well, and
right?
like, one of the things that, like, someone who I've always really respected as like just a person, a friend who does a lot of reading, said something along the lines of, I can never read enemies to lovers because I can't imagine finding someone who I hate, who I consider my enemy, sexually attractive. And you always read it in books that the person's like, oh, he's so hot, but I hate him so much. And that really stuck with me because I was like, oh no, I've definitely done that. And
oh yeah, 100%. I was like, really? She hasn't had that experience.
But at the same time, then I thought about it and I was like, actually, like, if I thought about like any person who I like actually hate in everyday life, and I'm like, no, there's no way I could find them attractive in any kind of way because my feelings of disgust towards them, or, you know, maybe some extremely heinous beliefs or the way that they've behaved to people I enjoy, like my legitimate and illegitimate reasons to dislike people. Sometimes I do just think people are annoying and they've done nothing to deserve that.
I mean, but haven't they? So...
No, because
did they have to be annoying about it?
They don't have to be annoying. Sometimes all they have to do is be like a little too loud on a day that I'm like a little bit got a chip on my shoulder, and then it's like, actually, I hate you until the end of time. Sometimes
you and Andrew are so similar. That was like the most Andrew thing you've ever said in your life.
That's my default state. Like, if you're too loud or too just energetic, I'm like immediately clock you as like, you're on thin fucking ice, bud. Which then, like, when I enjoy people, I like them to be loud and, you know, energetic. So it absolutely makes no sense.
I mean, Andrew married me. I am loud. I am energetic. My conversations are always divergent. Like, they just move all over the place. Andrew does not love that in most people. But, you know, he really likes me. So, no, I don't think it has to make sense. Like, and I don't think it's something that has to be able to be described either. Like,
sometimes
get
another text,
people just don't work.
About me.
I mean, I already tell him I talk about him constantly. So, because, oh my gosh. Okay, so I talk about this man constantly, right? And gathered, I talk a lot more than Andrew. So I talk about him constantly. He has worked with people for like a year, right? Yeah. And they're like, they think he's much younger than he is. And like, he said something about his wife and they're like, you're married? And he's like, yeah, for like a really long time. And then another coworker was like, hey, get this. He has 2 kids. And they're like, what? But like, he just goes to work and gets work done. Like, he doesn't really want to chat and be friends with people. Like, he just wants to go to work and get work done. Leave him alone.
I love that as a, like, just no one knows anything about him.
Yeah. Which is hilarious to me. But yeah, so
I would do that if I could, but like, my problem is I do overshare when I'm nervous, and my first day of work, I immediately overshare in an office or like wherever I go.
I'm sorry, some of your accidental phrases have been like some of my favorite things I've ever.
No, wait, what did that do in your brain?
You were on like a conference call and you referenced like big dick energy or something.
Oh my god, yeah. No, I think I said raw dogging to my boss, and she was like, about like a non-sexual thing, like, oh, just gonna raw dog that lemonade, huh?
Oh god, Kate. Oh no. It's so funny. I'm sorry I brought it up if it embarrasses you, but man, it's so funny.
No, it's fine. That's just my personality.
If
I could keep it to myself, I would.
I think I tend to come off as rather egotistical.
No.
I don't
think that.
But like, someone will give me recently I had someone, I was wearing my glasses and I had my hair up in a ponytail and she's like, you look so smart. And I was like, I am really smart. Right? Like, I had like already said thank you though. Like, she was like, you look so cute. I'm like, thank you. And she's like, you look so smart. I'm like, I am really smart. And so I'm like, did that come off egotistical or was that like the natural progression of that conversation?
Because you tell me about so many of the conversations you have with your kids about like modeling confident behavior and things like that, that I just knowing you would immediately interpret that, oh, she's doing her mom thing where she is modeling a behavior for me because she's just
the kids weren't in the room.
I know you do this. You have done this to me.
Okay, that's hilarious.
You have done like thing, and then I'm like, wait, oh, I'm doing the thing because Amanda did the thing.
You should do the thing. Okay, because again, I know I just said it like last episode, but like we need to toot our own horn. And so like, because like then my brain is like, well, if someone told me that they're really smart, I'm like, you are, right? Like I'd be really proud of them for saying that. But like not everybody thinks the same way I do about like, self-appreciation. Okay, how do we sell premise to our readers?
How do you sell a premise? The premise is that these people deserve to be together.
And that, like, no one else in the story could fill their shoes. One of the things I'm using currently is that, like, he really sees her in a way that, like, not everyone around her is seeing, right? Like, he really sees, like, how committed she is, what motivates her, what she wants to accomplish. Like, he's finding his own ways to support that dream. And so, like, as a reader, I would definitely buy that they should be together because of that. And then I'm asking myself, like, what am I doing for her to prove that like she could not be replaced with somebody else, right? And I think that mostly that's going to come in at the tail end of the story when she kind of has her own like moment of awakening. I don't know, Kate. What do you think? Have we discussed this subject?
There's like a couple thoughts I want to like shake loose before we wrap up.
Okay. Sweet.
Because, like, I do feel like we haven't quite touched enough on, like, your actual question. I keep tangenting.
I'm definitely tangenting as well. And it's, like, a subject I'm really interested in, but it also touches on, like, story in such a broad way that I think we're kind of talking a lot about it. Which then brings us into, like, our society. Yeah.
And, yeah. Also, and I feel like a lot of the two thoughts I have that are kind of inadequate to answer the question. I feel like they're really small things. But you kind of mentioned when you read Flatshare that there were a lot of little subtle things. And I think little things do pile up. And it's important to have those. Because they do stick out. Think
what she did really well was, yes, there were these like subtle moments, but we had enough story outside of the romance to carry the book.
Okay.
Right? So it is definitely a romance, but there is an argument to be made for like, is this like women's fiction heavy romance? Does that make sense?
See, okay. You just made me have like another thought.
Okay.
When I read How to Flirt with a Naked Werewolf, and let me say, I love, is it Molly Hooper or Molly Harper? Oh, I don't know. It's one of those.
But you've recommended this book to me before, and I haven't read it.
It's a good book, and I like her other things. And I really like her, I don't know that I would call them monster romances. Maybe they lean more like paranormal romances, like more traditional.
Yeah, okay.
So I remember being just absolutely enthralled by the character introduction of the heroine of How to Flirt with a Naked Werewolf. I don't remember her name.
Okay.
Because, like, she has, like, a really complicated, like, hippie name that they explain, and she explains a lot about why her parents are, like, complete weirdos to her, and, like, why they think she's so weird, because she's, like, very...
Not a hippie.
She's very buttoned up, and they're very loosey-goosey, and, you know, like, they're like, what are you? What's your deal? And, like, she had such a really interesting dynamic about, like, in just setting up the character. And then, like, it got to the romance, like, after, like, a really long introduction that just gripped me. The introduction really gripped me, which is so unusual, I think, to have an introduction that is long and gripping. But
yeah,
anyway,
okay, yeah.
I was kind of like not as invested in the romance. I hate to say this on the podcast out loud, but like it adds to your point of like, I think you need to have the story elements not outweigh each other, because I was really into the dynamic she had with her parents and being like, wow, that's just so interesting how like you guys just can't stop hurting each other, and like how you're so at odds with one another, and you can't see the like the ways that like you're driving each other apart and
affecting
like,
each other.
Yeah. And like, you know, like I was so into it, and like not even like reading it as a romance, like reading the book as a romance anymore. Wasn't interested in it at all anymore. And then like it got to the romance part, and I was kind of like, I feel like I should be done with this book because it's not at the part that interests me anymore, you know?
Yeah. No, I
It was
definitely
so weird.
understand that.
Like it's still
Yeah.
a good romance, and it is still worth reading. It's just because it felt like the beginning outweighed a lot of the rest of the book. I don't know. I really enjoyed her setting up small town Alaska and like how utterly close knit and zany this little town was, and
Yeah.
it was so cute. And then it was like, and now we're going to abandon this scenery. That's
No, I
actually a
get that
stray
though.
thought.
But like I wonder if she set up a premise that didn't feel like a romance to you. You know what I mean? Like I wonder what it was about the setup there that
Well, there were so
like
many characters,
waved you in the different direction. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like everyone else got so much attention and depth that the guy who was like the mysterious guy in the corner who doesn't like her, like got utterly overlooked by the time that he was like, you know, a central part of the story. It was like,
yeah,
I don't feel like I know him, and I feel like I know the diner's owner and chef better because there's a whole plot line where he like cuts off a finger or something.
Oh my gosh. Do you think she picked the wrong like hero?
No, I don't think it was that he was the wrong hero. I just feel like he didn't get enough like narrative weight, or like
okay.
I don't know that I've read it recently enough to like give you a these two aren't meant for each other kind of like analysis. But I do feel like, and this kind of leads me into one of the other things I wanted to like kind of note, because it feels like a really small thing, and yet I think when you're reading it does have a lot of weight. And like it's one of those things that like as the writer versus the reader, like you can't really perceive how important it's going to be, and like it feels really important to you, but like the reader might not think so. Like, is it worth keeping it in? When I was writing one of my projects where it was handled with Claire, and one of the rewrites Claire had like, so it's a big part of the story that Claire has this ex-boyfriend who you know, she just has an ex-boyfriend and he's not the romantic interest, and it isn't a second chance romance. This guy's just kind of a dick, and he's kind of in the background. And the actual love interest is this guy, Matt. But, like, because in the chapter in one of the rewrites, the ex-boyfriend was actually introduced before Matt. And one of the comments I got back was, it's kind of confusing that this guy was introduced before your love interest, because this kind of gives it that enemies to lovers, second chance romance vibes.
I remember you telling me getting that comment. Yeah.
And I really struggled with it for a while because I was like, well, no, I don't want to give off these vibes. And like, I don't think I'm doing anything to make it seem like they're going to like each other. Of course they hate each other. It's part of the plot. It's part of her growth in learning to love it herself more, is to realize like how shitty he was to her, you know? But like how to not send those mixed signals. And like, I don't have a good answer except that kind of superficial thing does kind of influence your reader. And so you do need to like keep that in mind for blocking. And when I say blocking, I mean it in like the theatrical way. I don't know if there's like a narrative way.
I don't know if there is either. I always think of it as blocking as well.
Okay.
But, okay, so back to the book you were just talking about, how like it felt like the hero didn't have enough weight in the narrative. I'm wondering if that could have been corrected by giving him like a very specific characterization, right? Because what I'm hearing is that you didn't identify with him because there had already been so much identification with the other characters, right? Yeah. So like if he had been given like something that felt very relatable to the reader, then it might have given him enough voice for people to see him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for me, I think a lot of it is because in order to play the broody, mysterious loner in town, that required he didn't get a lot of screen time.
But if he's a broody, mysterious loner in town, what is something that we can note every time he's on the page? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, no, it's something that like would remind you, this is that guy. So you know
this is that guy, and we care about that guy.
I do think a lot, like there's ways to give a character attention without
taking a lot of time on the page,
without making them literally stand on stage, you know? Like you can have them be on like the main character's mind, or maybe bothered by them, or like maybe like you can make them show up in a number of ways. Someone else mentions the character, or you know, maybe you see his picture in a high school yearbook. Like, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
things
to bring him present. Yeah.
Yeah, keep him present even if he's not like actually there. And like but the same thing is like you got to do it in ways that are memorable enough and characterizing enough, I think. But then again, like I think it is such a cliche to like have a character who's doing the whole angsty thing in my corner while you're over here, and then everyone's like, oh, don't mind him, he lost his parents and everyone died in this horrible accident, and like someone else is like characterizing him and explaining him to the heroine for and like doing this weird emotional labor. Like I'm trying to get you to like him, and it comes off as fake and weird.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good observation.
But it's also like it's such a cliche, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I try to avoid doing things like that.
There's a lot of wiggle room, and like everyone has their own like tolerance for stuff, right? So like as a reader, you don't feel very tolerant of that, but other readers might be like, it's okay. They're just moving the story along. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I don't know.
There's no direct wrong answer as much as like just make sure that we care about the people you're talking about.
Yeah.
And there was another thought I had in there.
I had like one more thought too, but I've definitely lost it by now. So
yeah.
I'm going to make peace with the fact that it's gone.
It's gone. I think mine was something to do with Handle with Claire and that note you got.
How to like make sure people don't read it as tropes that aren't there.
Yeah, but like also I think a lot of that can shine through with like where you place your heroine's attention. So if Ryan is introduced first, but she is not paying attention to him, right? Like he's introduced first, he's at a store, and instead of like focusing on anything to do with him, she's reading the label of this like hairspray. And then we have Matt walk in, and she still has the hairspray in her hand, but man, like he is so fixated in her attention. Does that make sense? Like I think that it just shifts the frame.
Because I think even if you show someone like on screen having like a dynamic with someone, if like you can read enemies to lovers vibes into it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what we were watching, but we were like, there was supposed to be a romance, but the chemistry was not between the two romantic partners at all.
Oh, God.
And we were both like, they are not falling in love with the right person. like,
oh my God, I wish you knew what it was so you could have talked
I know.
about it.
And like, I'm sure that like I could give a couple examples, you know. I also had an experience where I was not writing two characters. I wasn't writing a romance at the time. And I got a note that like these two have like really great flirty banter, and like I'm really excited to see how their relationship, you know, continues. And I was like, oh, they're not, right? And now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm totally gonna rewrite that so that they are. Like I will write that into a romance instead of taking it in the direction I was. Because, yeah, they totally had chemistry.
This is Nora in one of your scenes, I think. Because I think I've definitely said that about her, and then you were like, no.
No, it wasn't. It's something you haven't, like, read or seen at all. But I've been, like, kind of toying with it in my head as, like, possibly, like, a nice story to just kind of give a break to, like, what I tend to write, you know? Because I really do feel like my brain is like, hey, I need to play with something else for a little while. Right? Like,
totally.
Of course I love my books and I love writing them, and I want to come back to them.
But you need something that energizes you for a
Yeah.
minute.
I just need to play with something else for a little while. I don't know, Kate. I think we have some like pretty golden little nuggets in there.
Okay.
I think that you will have to go searching for them a bit, but but I think there's definitely some things that we did really right. What do you think?
All right.
Are you good?
So I'm good. Do you have any advice for listener?
Find craft books and read them or listen to them. I love listening to craft books particularly. I don't really like reading them. No. I like to listen to them. It's almost like I learn really well through listening. And so it's almost like a lecture.
Okay.
right?
Yes. No, I do love a good like audiobook that you feel
Yeah.
is lecturing you. I'm so
Yeah.
upset with like is two because I got two audiobooks and I read them like I tried the first one and I didn't like the voice actress in that one. So I was like, I'm gonna read the next one that I got. And then it was like a different voice actress, but she had the same qualities that she sounded really young and
Uh-huh.
like a teenager was reading it. And
That's
I
very
wanted
young.
it to like and see it was like a physics lecture and I was like it just feels like someone's reading me their paper. I don't
That
like
is
it's all
such a
good
weird
stuff,
sensation.
but like
Yeah.
it wasn't landing the way that I felt like it should have been landing.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm sure someone else can like appreciate the quality of the actress's work, but like it was not what I was expecting going into, and so I think that's why it kind of put me off.
It just wasn't working. Yeah. So yeah, listener, that's my advice is find something to read that is about craft because it gets you thinking about like what you see and I mean it's helpful even if you're like I already know this. That's fine. Review is great. So yeah, that's my advice. If you want any suggestions of things that I've enjoyed, just email me at martyvauthor@gmail.com and I'll send you rec. I love them. What about you? Do you have any advice?
Oh, I wish I'd come up with some while you were spelling your email address.
You were listening. You were doing a great job of being an awesome co-host.
I feel like I haven't done any good writing or
any
like,
good writing or writing related
writing,
things.
Just writing at all. I have been doing like business management stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly. And catching up on other things.
I mean, sometimes you have to change your focus. I think that's yeah. It just sucks because like you feel like you're not doing something.
It does. And I think like part of the problem is because like ever since we moved to our new apartment, I feel like we've kind of created a very set schedule. You know, we always do the same things on the same days of the week just because of this is what works for how much time we have this day kind of thing. And I haven't like this is kind of like a natural rhythm we've fallen into, but I haven't put aside the time to specifically write. If I write, it's something that kind of randomly gets done. And I think what I need is like to figure out a way to structure my time and make sure that there's at least a little time dedicated each week in the same spot, maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that that's really good advice to like find your pattern and where you can fit writing into your pattern. Because I was also struggling with that for a long time. When the kids started school and daycare, I really couldn't figure out where it was I had to sit writing. And it ended up being like, hey, set your alarm for 4:50.
I'm not doing that, but I know you're maybe I have to do that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I ended up having to do. And honestly, like it's working great. Like I have my phone so that it won't show apps. Like it's turned off as like downtime between 4 and 7. And so I don't get any alerts and that's it. Like
see, the advice that I've been reading, like I've been getting for how to just wake up earlier is that your alarm goes off at the time, you wake up, you go to turn it off. But the thing is you need to keep holding onto your phone and immediately go to like your social media and scroll until you feel awake.
Oh, God, I would just fall asleep. Yeah, for sure. 100%.
It may be shitty really advice, but like it has worked for me.
If it's worked for you, that's awesome. I would just fall asleep. But what works for me is, for one thing, knowing that like, hey, I have this goal to get this scene done by this date. And if I don't get up and write it right now, I will not do it. Like there is no other time in my day. So that's part of it. But then another part of it is what works really well is if I have to go potty. So if I have to go to the bathroom, then I'm really good at getting up and then staying up. Yeah. But yeah, knowing that like this is when I have to do this task or else it's not going to happen is like number one. It's what got me out of bed this morning.
Yeah.
Yep. I was like, I don't really need to. And I was like, no, that scene's not going to get written if you don't get up right now. And I got up. So, Kate, where can listener find you?
I've got my website, kate-pryor.com. I'm by Kate Pryor on pretty much all the socials, you know. Mm-hmm. And I've got my newsletter. You can find it on my website. I'm trying to get into using it more.
I get so excited when you talk about your newsletter. And, like, I know it's just because, like, I really like my newsletter. But, like, I'm also like, okay, go! Like, I get so excited.
Slowly building it.
Is there anywhere else? I totally interrupted you.
No, I think that's everything. Okay. It's my website, socials. You know, I'm mostly on Instagram and I'm trying to be on TikTok.
Yeah, I need to figure out the TikTok. Okay, so I am at Marty the Author on Instagram and TikTok. TikTok, I'm hit or miss. I mean, hell, Instagram, I'm hit or miss. You can really find me at martyv.com at my newsletter. That is the best place to be in the know about what's going on. All right, I love you, Kate. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye, listener. Bye.